Hi, I'm FIDE Master Livich Arbulenko, and in this series I explore the typical mistakes of people rated anywhere between 1000 and 2000. This is a first reaction, no engine analysis, of a chess.com game played between 1763 versus 1768. Let's start. Okay, so d4, d5, knight to c3. That's a bit unusual. Usually we go pawn to c4 first and then knight to c3. The reason is that if you play knight c3, then let's say black plays like c6 in the future, and when the knight's limited, there is no like real pressure on the center, because the center is protected by the c6 pawn. We're not gonna take, right? And the knight's like limited, there's no real pressure. Whereas if you play c4, c6, knight to c3, now there is real pressure. Why? Because we have pawn versus pawn. So we can take first with a pawn, we're gonna take, and then the knight c3 puts real pressure on d5. So that's the reason we put real pressure on the center. Plus, also, we open up a queen. So when in the future, white can play queen to b3, pressuring at the same time b7, but also the d5 pawn. Okay, so that's usually why it is better to put the queenside knight behind the pawn. It's usually the on the c file, right? You play c4, knight to c3, or for black, that would be c5, knight to c6. On the king side, it's okay to put the knight in front because you don't want to move this pawn, because this is the weakest link for white, f2, as is f7 for black. Is the Achilles heel for white, and f7 for black. So that's why if you play f4, you would weaken your king, and it's not worth it. You just weaken squares, okay? So it doesn't apply to the king side. On the king side, we play knight f3 in front of the pawn, knight f6 in front of the pawn, okay? So knight c3 is kind of unusual. Black played knight to f6, okay? Bishop f4, So white plays in this like Jobava London style, right? The typical London, white plays bishop f4, e3, pawn to c3, and the knight typically goes to d2. In the Jobava London, white goes bishop f4, knight to c3. There is ideas like knight b5, right? Attacking c7 was like one of the main ideas, right? There's also ideas like queen d2 and then castle queenside. Because usually in the London, typical classical London, white usually castles kingside. In the Jobava London, a lot of times white castles queenside. So the point of this is, like I said, is knight b5, attack c7, but also to clear up quickly the first rank. Knight c3, queen d2, fast development, right? Fast development, queen d2, castle long, that's the upper point. Knight c6, now that's kind of weird. Okay, white played knight to c3, it does not mean that black should respond in the same fashion. We know that white has this threat of knight b5. Why not just go like c6? c6, I think, is much better than knight to c6. One, it prevents knight b5. Two, it strengthens the d5 pawn the center. Three, it opens up the queen. Potentially, we could activate it. We know that white won a castle queenside most likely, right? And three, it prepares the pawn storm with b5, b4. And again, like I said, we know that white won a castle queenside. So why not prepare? Why not like discourage white? Or if they do castle queenside, we have this attack handy, right? b5, b4. For example, let's say queen d2, b5, castles, b4, and now already black has the initiative. You know, let's say knight a4 or something, queen a5. But I can move because queen a2, b3, but b3 is weakening everything, right? And now black could play, for example, here, let's say like king b1, knight b6. You know, and if takes, just takes, and with big advantage for black, you know. And if knight here, maybe just e6, and now hitting the knight, you know. It's just also the queen can go to like a3 maybe, and then like a5, a4, for example, yeah. Or there's also like the idea of bishop a6, and then bishop b5, which is very good for black. There's also the idea of knight e4, by the way, actually. Attacking the queen, attacking f2, going to c3, let's say queen e1, and now there's ideas like knight c3, takes, threatening queen a2, threatening queen a3, queen b2, checkmate. Or for example, let's say after here, knight e4, you know, now, and now knight b6, and now why can't I even play knight c5? Because then black just takes. So we have to take, but then we just take, activate the rook, attack a2, it's just completely winning. Knight c3 next as well. It's completely winning. So, do you see my point? If black knows, but white on a castle queenside, they can, you know, just play c6, b5, b4. So knight c6 is weird. Knight c6 is just weird. e3. Now I wonder, can't white just play knight b5? What's wrong with this? I mean, black has to play e5, but we just take. We just win the pawn. I mean, knight d7 we just take, where it's not even the only move. There's also another idea, actually, which I'll show you. Let's say we go like knight g8, yeah? Just e6. Have a knight e7. Game over. We can, of course, play e6 here as well. But we could just take as well. We have like knight e5. Still big advantage for white, of course. Still huge advantage, but queen d5 is also fine. But like knight g8, e6. True, we can play knight h5, but that's weird, like having the knight in the corner. That's just not good. Of course, there's even this crazy move. I don't know if it's good, but at least for a second we should consider it, right? Queen g5, knight takes e7. King d8, knight takes a8, and we took a pawn, we took a rook, the king is in the center. There's also ideas next, like queen takes d5, or e4, or c4, even if let's say defend, right, there's like e4, c4, then take knight f3, rook c1, you know, stuff like this. So at least we should consider it, or at the very least, we could just move a bishop somewhere back, even all the way back to like c1, and still is good, because this knight is in the corner, so it's not good for black. Knight takes c5, of course, there's many moves. There's like e4, of course, right? Opening up a queen, attack the knight, attack the d5 pawn is very good. There's, of course, this crazy tactic, queen takes d5. Queen d5, knight c7. We win the pawn, also black cannot castle anymore. Huge advantage for white. Do you see? So, knight b5 is huge advantage for white, basically on the spot. Yeah, it's basically just over, completely over. Yeah, e3, big mistake. a6, now black has seen what he has done and has corrected his mistake. Knight f3. Okay, bishop f5. Bishop f5, maybe not the best. I think bishop f4 is better, because this bishop is very bad. If you look at the pawns, right, it's blocked. This knight is like a knight on e5 is much better than black's bishop, right, on c8 or whatever. This knight is much better because the position is quite close, it's quite fixed. Knights are much better in fixed positions. So why not play bishop g4? This knight is worth way more than a bishop, and then just take it at some point. Just take it at some point. So I think bishop f5 is inaccurate. Yeah. This is a huge mistake. Oh my god. I mean, white's bishop is much better than black's bishop. Just look at the pawns, right? Good bishop, classic good bishop versus bad bishop. So this is the worst move what white could have possibly played. I mean, if you're gonna develop the bishop, develop it on e2. Much better than d3. This is the good bishop, this is the bad bishop. You know, just bishop e2. Big mistake, huge strategical mistake. Now black should be fine. Oh, black played bishop g. I mean, black could have just taken. It's true that white has this interesting move cd. When we control these key light squares, there's also rook c1, pressure on c7. So this would be a good move by white. But still, I think black should be fine. Just play e6 and black should be fine. Bishop g6, of course. If white takes and black plays hg, of course it's better than taking on d3 in that case, because now white has these weak light squares, there's no c file that's open, right? So of course, the problem is that white can realize his mistake and now play bishop e2. Yes, white wasted a tempo on d3 e2, but so did black on bishop g6. So that's the downside of bishop g6. White can realize his mistake and go back. But it's difficult to play it psychologically. But I think maybe white should. Oh, white takes. It's just crazy. Like, oh, just like take. That's another mistake. Don't like always like, because I understand why. Because you wanna like release the tension. You don't know what to do. Oh, what should I do? And the first thing that comes to mind is like, oh, exchange. Just like take stuff, right? Because you don't know what to do. So in order not to think, you take, you exchange. Because when it's easy, oh, I just take. It's just mindless taking, mindless exchanging. That's the worst. That's why I lose so many games. Because when you exchange, when you release the tension, most of the time you do this to your detriment. Usually, rule of thumb is the one who initiates the exchange, the one who exchanges first, is the one who loses the edge, the one who loses the advantage. Like in this case, like I showed you, if black takes, you can play cd, You gain advantage. If you take, you lose that advantage, and also you get black advantage over h file. So that's why don't just like mindlessly exchange. Keep attention. If you keep attention, you're gonna win way more games. Let your opponent take. Let your opponent exchange. And in doing so, he will lose his advantage. Okay, so that's one of the biggest mistakes I see at lower levels. So instead, white should just play bishop e2, or even if not, just make a normal, just castle. Let black take, and just go cd. Have c file, control light squares. Okay, so bishop g6 mistake. Just have black open up h file. a3, absolute waste of time. You already have all these pawns on the color of your bishop. Do you need to put another pawn of the same color? What's the point? Why would you play a3? Is there a threat of knight b4? Isn't c2 protected? No, there's no threat. You can always play a3. What's the rational? What's the point? It makes zero sense. There's no point. Just make a normal move, right? Like h3 I think is not bad. Why? Because there's always like this knight h5 stuff, right? Threat, maybe attack our bishop. So h3 is typical idea to have bishop h2, home for the bishop, in case of knight h5. Okay? So I think h3 makes sense. You know, or if you want a castle queenside, develop the queen through d2 or e2, and then castle queenside. That's fine. Or put a knight in the center, I don't know, 95 is an exchanges, but it is a central move. It is a central move, that's one. Central move. True. You can really take us, and you can even go de, open up a queen, the knight moves, then we just take on d5. Game over. Okay? So it's not so simple. But of course, usually, ideally, of course, you want to put a knight on e5 and so the black cannot take it. Like, let's say we go knight b8 or something, right? Some move, and then like knight e5. So ideally, you don't want to have your knight traded. Okay? Because a knight on e5 is much stronger than a bishop on e5. So usually when you have like space, when you can put your pieces in the center, you do not want to trade them, ideally. But in this case, you can take, because like I showed you, because of a tactical reason. But yeah, a3, absolute waste of time. Very bad move. Also strategically bad, because you put it on the same color as your bishop. d3, okay. Now, I mean, again, this is good bishop, this is bad bishop. Strategically, black should keep his bishop, so bishop e7 will not be a better move. Good bishop, bad bishop. Bishop d6 is not good. The only point would be that if white like takes, black can go like cd. Now we control these dark squares and open up the c file. That would be the only upside. But I don't know if I don't think it's worth it. I think bishop e7 would have been a better move. But okay. White played here. Okay. This is double edge. On one hand, white gets double pawns, which like look bad, but on the other hand, one, the e file opens up for white, and two, now we really dominate the e5 square. That's the upside, right? Because now we have 2 pawns controlling e5. So this is actually a typical idea, which a lot of times is good. It's like, okay, double pawns, but we control this key e5 square, we're gonna put the knight on e5, and then if black ever takes on e5, we're gonna play fe and undouble the pawns, but also with domination, right? So it's usually fine. So it's okay. This is okay. Knight g4 attacking f2. Rook, this is kind of weird. Rook d2 is weird. I think queen e2 would have been fine, because queen on d3 is kind of weird as well. So why not just play the queen e2? And then like, there's knight e5 idea, there's just a simple h3, there's knight g5 idea as well. G5 is also pretty good, right? Attacking f7, attacking e6, maybe some potential sacrifice of a knight on f7 or e6, you know. I think it's just very good, yeah. I think queen e2 would have been the best. Look, it's just weird. But okay, here. Wait, I think this is a mistake. So black's attacking the f4 pawn, right? I think white could have just played like g3. Or stronger, and then like knight e5, for example, yeah. Let's say. But g3 is fine. h3 I think is a mistake, because white cannot take the knight anyway, because there's this pin, the rook is hanging. So black can just play queen. I mean, black can just play queen f4. And now if white's not careful, let's just make some random move, yeah? Let's say like just some random, let's say like b3, yeah? Now black can just play knight f2. Because the rook is pinned as well by the queen. So it's just game over. Okay? So it's just queen f4. And white cannot take because rook h1. Always look for tactics. Another rule of thumb. Just because your opponent attacks your piece does not mean you have to move it. A lot of times you can sacrifice it. Maybe there's some counterattack, some intermezzo, some check, some... Don't just automatically presume. But if your piece is attacked, you have to move it back. That's another huge mistake I see all the time at lower levels. But okay, knight h6, mistake. Now he goes g3. Okay. Castles. Knight 3e5. Okay. Now there's also another idea, by the way, which I also like very much. Because again, knight e5, on one hand, it makes sense to centralize the knight. If we take, you can like play fe and double the pawns, have this pawn in their half of the board, which gains you territory. On the other hand, like I said, when you have like domination, when you have more space, it's also a good idea not to trade pieces, especially minor pieces. It's a good idea to keep more pieces on the board, because as you exchange pieces, your initiative wears off. You know, it just wears off. So you want to keep more pieces, especially minor pieces. Like ideally, when I put my knight on e5, I want to keep it on e5. I don't want to have a pawn on e5. I want to ideally have a knight, because a knight on e5 is very dominating. It's very dominating. Okay, so ideally I want to wait for them, like I want to get rid of this knight, maybe exchange it somehow otherwise, or maybe wait for them to move on and then play knight e5. Okay, so there's this idea of knight a4, by the way. Very good idea, very good idea. And the point is knight c5, queen b3. c5 is a very strong square. Let's say like some move, let's say rook e8 or some random move, knight c5, and next queen b3. And also because black played a6 is now even b6 is even more difficult to play. And this is a big trouble for black. I don't even know what do we play. How do we even prevent knight? I mean queen b3. We have very weak a6, b7. It's just basically over. We can't really prevent queen b3. Like, you see, you exploit the fact that black has this knight in the corner. It should have been on d7, protecting the king, especially c5. You exploit the fact that the knight is not on d7 but on h6 on the opposite side of the board, and you exploit it to attack it on this side of the board. So I think this would have been like this. I think is like much more spicy, much more dangerous. Well, like knight e5. Knight e5 is just exchange, simplifying. Knight a4 is keeping the tension, keeping the initiative. Whereas you can always play knight e5. It's not going away. The threat is stronger than the execution. Let him always worry about. If you play knight e5, he does not need to worry about it. Why? Because you already played it. Versus if you play knight a4, there's always a threat of knight e5. So keep him worrying. Okay. So I think knight a4 would have been white's best move. But okay, takes here f4, fortifying this pawn. I mean, I see the point, but I mean, knight a4 again would have been interesting. Knight c5, queen b3. I think this still would have been the best. But okay, f4, queen d7. Now knight a4. Yeah, queen d7 not the worst move actually, because now it prevents knight a4. So then I would say it's a good move, queen d7. g4. It's actually a mistake. I see the point. They wanna limit the knight to potentially maybe make some pawn break in the future. But it's a mistake. Exactly due to knight takes g4. Now we can take, because then just rook h1, right? Let's see, so knight d1, knight h6, we wanna reroute the knight on this, yeah, just takes on this nice square. Oh, now this is a forever knight. We can never attack it with either g4 or e4, because you have no such pawns. It's just a forever knight, huge advantage for black. Let's see, rook c2, what is this? Just losing the pawn, right? I mean, instead, I don't know, maybe like knight c3 should have played, yeah? And then like put a knight on e4, play king b1, this rook we should slide to c1, something like this. But yeah, rook, this should be just a mistake, right? Black played c6, that's okay, they want to be extra careful, but I mean, they actually could have played knight takes d4. There's no question, I will just take. Which knight d4, of course, is the best. There's no need to play c6, but okay. Queen b4, queen takes d4. Why just completely collapses? Check. Oh, knight d4. Yeah, okay, queen c4. Yeah, pinning the knight. Queen. I mean, black is up what? Black is up 4 pawns. Yeah. Okay, queen e4. Oh, it's game over, right? It's double attack. So white just resigned. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. this was the game. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.